Okay, section 1, page 3. Use to provide a graph of f of x and g of x to find the value of the following. So limit f of x as x approaches to 1, we see it on the graph. At 1, the point is negative 3. So therefore our limit is negative 3. Limit f of x as x approaches 3, look back on the graph. We see that 3 from the negative side is 1 and 3 from the positive side is 2. Those values don't correspond, so therefore the limit does not exist. It's important to note the limit has to be from the negative side and the positive side to equal. Our next limit is limit f of x as x approaches to 6. Look back on the graph, we see that at 6 on both sides, the limit approaches 2. So therefore, our limit of f of x approaching to 6 is 2. The limit f of x as x approaches to 10. We look again at the negative side, it approaches 1, but from the positive side, there's no continuing function, so the limit does not exist. Our next one is limit of g of x as x approaches to 4. We look at 4, and from both sides, the limit approaches 2. So therefore, the limit g of x as x approaching 4 is 2. Our next limit is limit g of x as x approaches 6 from the negative side. Look at from the negative side, 6 is 2 again, so our limit is 2. Our limit of g of x as x approaches 6 from the positive side. We look on the graph as the limit comes from the positive side approaches 6, it goes on to negative infinity, so our limit is negative infinity. Our next limit is limit f of x plus g of x as x approaches 3 from the negative side. We look back on the graph, as x approaches 3 from the negative side, we have 1 plus, and from g of x, the graph approaches 3 from the negative side, it's negative 1. So 3 plus negative 1 is 0. Our limit is 0. Limit f of x plus g of x as x approaches 3 from the positive side. Again, we look from the positive side, as x approaches 3 is negative 2. Plus x approaching 3 from the negative positive side is 2 again, so therefore negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Limit f of x plus g of x as x approaches 3. From these two, we can tell that from the negative side and the positive side, since both equal, our limit would be 0. Our next limit is limit f of x times g of x as x approaches 0 from the positive side. Look at the graph again. As f of x approaches 0 from the positive side, we see that's negative 1. So we have negative 1 times g of x from the approaching to 0 from the positive side is 5. So we have negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. Limit f of g of x, first thing at what's inside of here. So the limit of g of x as x approaches to 5, we see that at 5, the limit approaches 2. So we can correspond that to f of 2. And f of 2 is negative 1. So our limit is negative 1. Same situation again. Limit of g of f of x, look at what's inside first. So the limit approaching f of x as x approaches 3 from the negative side. So from the negative side, we see that the limit is 1, so we see it as g of 1. G of 1 is 3. So therefore, limit g f of x as x approaches to the negative side is 3.